Well, so there's nobody here that was here in 2009, is that correct? So I can say anything I want? Back then in 2009, I was talking about spatial relationships of how we were going to work in different times at different places. That pretty much has transpired, as she said. So today I'm going to talk more about the quality of the workspaces of the future and how we can design them, just like the presentation says, to promote purposeful engagement. And I've heard a lot of words, you know, aging, engagement, well-being, those kinds of things, and that's the kind of thing that I'm going to focus on. But I'm going to go light on the theory, and I'm going to go heavy on the practical, and I'm going to be around all day, so those of you that want to carry the discussion forward about more of the theoretical stuff, I'd be more than happy to do that. Another question, how many yoga instructors do I have in the audience? Oh, good. Oh, okay. Well, you tell me at the end of the presentation where you find some connect points. And that's all I'm going to say right now. So I'm from Tucson, Arizona. Yeah, this weather's a little unusual, but I did bring this weather. And I'm glad to be here. I'm a sociologist by training. I'm also a Reiki master teacher, so you're going to hear some of that kind of stuff as we go through this. And you folks can figure out where to find me. I'm all about purpose. What your purpose is, what the purpose of the workplace is, and what the purpose of the community that you live and work in. Those three things. My contention is if those three things are not aligned on purpose, it's not going to work well. And I'm going to show you a bunch of examples. But that's the key thing. What's your why? What's your why? What's your purpose? And the place that you work, what's their why? And the place that you live, what's the community why? Keep coming back to those things. So why should you care? Big deal. A lot of people are talking about purpose today, the purpose economy, this, that, one thing or another. But what difference does it make to a person who has a business? What you're going to hear from me today is about a transition from the old story to the new story. The old story didn't care about purpose. The new story is all about purpose. And I'm going to keep coming back to that. And the thing that I believe is missing in the state of transition is no shared purpose. Hang out of that thought. I'm going to get to it. So why should you care? To me, in the research that I've done over the past 25, 30 years, if you don't have engagement, the person engaged with work in the workplace, you're not going to have employees. You saw earlier today some great data that was presented about the differences in generations and what have you. And if people aren't engaged, especially the younger workers, they're not going to be there. They're going to be gone. And if you don't have employees, you don't have profit. I'm talking to some folks the other day, West Coast company, I'll leave it go with that. So I can't understand it. We keep hiring these people right out of college, we're paying them 6 figures. They come in, they hang out for 60, 90 days, and they leave. Some of them don't even cash their last paycheck because they're not engaged, they don't see the purpose, they're gone. This company is in a position, it may have to shut down because it can't get the people that it needs to continue the business. It's very specific and very technical, but they're in this position. That's my point. So that's why I think you should care. And I think you need to design into the future and not get run over by it, which means you need to be designing a workplace today for the year 2025, 2030, not 2017. If you're designing for 2017, 2018, 19, you're going to be run over. How old is that chair you're sitting on? Probably close to 10 years old. Be my guess. So, okay, old story, new story. Old story is what I grew up with. I'm a baby boomer, right? With all these expectations and all these attitudes that carry forward what I heard from my parents. And today we're beginning to live in the era of the new story. It's not quite here yet. It's a little fuzzy, And that's what causes a lot of tension and anxiety. But that's the transition we're going through. The story I grew up with is gone. It really is. My kids, whole different thing. These are just some words, and I'm going to do this quickly, but we can come back. But if you want to write a narrative, you want to do a screenplay, these are old story words and themes, emotions. These are new story themes and emotions that are coming at. My absolute favorite is this one. Ego's gone, let go. Let go of my ego. You just have to do it, and that's where it's going. So a workplace that displays and reinforces ego probably isn't going to fit the purpose that folks are bringing to it, as an example. That's the old story. And I'm from the West, right? That's the old story. That's John Wayne. That's the masculine, the conquer anything, independent, all by myself, soft speaking, what have you. That's the old story. And we're moving to the new story. Now, what's that image say? Feminine, softer, caring. Did you get it? Did you see it? Mom. Very subliminal, but it's there.
Oh my God.
Ah! Well, another thing about the news story, a lot of the news story is very subtle and somewhat hidden, and you have to look at things like, I'm sorry, am I getting in your way? Okay. But that's it. This is where we're going.
It's freaky.
And this is just an image I picked. So kind of hold that. So purpose and engagement. My contention, and I have data to support this, not as much as I'd like, but if personal purpose and organizational purpose aren't matched together, you are not going to get engaged employees. And if you don't have engaged employees that can map this, they will go someplace else that does. But think of an example where you may have been someplace and you had a personal purpose, but the organization didn't match. How did that fit? How did that feel for you? Well, let me give you an example. I'll tell a story on myself. Personal purpose was about learning, about going to school, being of service, and what have you. And I was in an organization that was dedicated to doing quite the opposite. I was in the Army. Didn't mesh, didn't fit, didn't last long, left. That's the whole part of it. And we often don't ask people about, you're coming into a workplace, what's your personal purpose? And then deliberately talking about what the organizational purpose is and trying to get the two to match. We're not doing that quite yet, but again, this is the new story that's emerging to get these two things to fit. So how do you design workspaces to give people meaning, that they can extract that purpose out of it? Okay, this is, and I'm going to do this quick. My assumptions about the essence of the workplace is that it's there in nature, and we often cover it up with stuff, and it also becomes very faddish. It's like, what are the favorite corporate colors today? Well, let me see, silver, maroon, and mahogany. And that lasts for 10 years. And then your architects come through and say, oh, no. It's earth tones and greens and blues. And we change everything to do that. It becomes very faddish and it's very cyclical like this. So I think we cover it up a lot, but it's really there. And part of what you're going to hear me talk about today is how you strip that away and get back to the essence of it in terms of design. All again, back to promoting engagement, matching on purpose. So what's the what of it? So how do you design that? Don't confuse yourself with this stuff. I just want to put it up there to let you know There's something of substance behind this, not just Charlie spouting things because he's been breathing too much cactus dust out in the desert. This really is, and I'd be happy to have that discussion, but if you come all the way over here, it's really about these three things: simplicity, enclosure, and completeness. You just keep coming back to that. So I'm the kind of guy you talk to before you hire the architect. Okay? The architect's going to do one thing. I'm going to do something else based on human behavior, social science, and a little authenticity is the word we use today, right? Authenticity. So there's something there, but let's not dwell on it too much. Simplicity. Sean made it, one of my favorite guys. You keep subtracting, keep taking things out until you're down to simplicity. To give you an example, if you look at something like this, a piece of technology, absolute simplicity is only one button. How many of you ever, this is going to hate me, know how to program a VCR? Oh, okay. What I've got today is I just talk to it. The only interface is a speaker. You know, I want to replay a such and such a show from whatever it was, I can't even remember, and it pops up. I've got a speaker in my house, I walk by and say, I should have asked it, what's the temperature in Boston next Thursday? Which I didn't, but it would have told me. So simplicity is to get that, boil it down, the absolute simplest thing you can do. Enclosure. People know Faith Popcorn? She's a very famous futurist. I think she's based in New York City, and a few years ago, she's always doing these big scans. She came out and she said, one of the trends of the future is people are going to cocoon themselves. They're going to want to kind of close in and put this cocoon around themselves and somewhat separate themselves from all of the noise and distractions and everything. And I'm like, she called it cocooning. And sure enough, that's what people did. They went to the suburbs, they kind of collapsed stuff, and even you could start to see it at work. People wanted enclosure, this feeling of safety, if you will, is really what it was coming from. And completeness. To me, this is very important, is people need to sense their connectedness to other people and what we call artifacts. The table's an artifact, the screen is an artifact. It's a thing that you want to be connected to. So I can reach out, I really like to touch it, whiteboards that I can play with, that kind of thing. And the sensing connectedness, and I have not been through here on a tour, but I'll be anxious to see to what extent people can physically connect with others. They can hear them, they can see them, they can walk over and get close to them. But it's an idea, you don't feel complete if you're not connected. So how do we build something that allows people to connect to the extent that they want to? Because not everybody wants to do that, and you don't need to do it all the time. Sometimes you just want to go like in a phone booth and shut the door and be able to have a private conversation or get away from the idiots who won't stop talking, right? Awful wish I could get that on an airplane. So, what's it look like? So here we go with some pictures. And these are just examples. I'm getting most of these from my friends at the, comes the plug for Work Design Magazine, which is really probably the primo source these days for this kind of cutting edge design work. And they're just geniuses. I can throw the word completeness out and they come back with these images. I don't know how they do it. So I just want to share a couple of these. That's really, and this is pretty simple. Look at the colors. You don't have pictures on the walls. You don't have drapes blocking the view, things like that. This is a pretty good example of simplicity in design. So you don't get distracted by all of that, because we as humans, we're always trying to look behind something. So if you see a tree, you're just naturally trying to do that. Or imagine what's behind the curtain or something. So simplicity. Now, most people look at that and they say, Grantham, you're crazy. That is not enclosure. That's openness. Well, sort of at one level it is, but you can see there's little pods, I call them pods, that you get a sense both of enclosure but openness at the same time. Have you ever heard the word prairie dogging at work? That people pop up behind the partition and look around. They just, I got gophers in my backyard, right? Whoever designed the gopher farm, that's a way that human behavior expresses itself. But then they'll drop down again. And then they pop up again. In this kind of environment, you get both senses at once. You could be enclosed, but you can kind of scan the environment. If you stand up, you're very visible now. So if you want to connect, all you have to do is stand up. Very simple. It's not that you have to go down the hall screaming and hollering and what have you, unless it's a fire drill. This is an example of completeness, and what I mean by completeness here is you've got several different kinds of work environments blended together. It's a complete whole, but you can see all of it at once and move into any part of it very, very easily. You can go from sitting on a cushion to being at a small table to having a pretty private enclosure all within a few feet, and there's no barriers to moving around, really, so it's complete. It's not just one thing. So, there's a pretty quick example of simplicity, enclosure, and completeness with three basic design principles with some visual examples. Now, how do you do that? How do you do that? Just as a practical example, the first thing you do is you get the HR people, and the IT people, and the facilities people, and the business leaders all together, all talking about the same thing, which is purpose, engagement, and what have you. Because if you don't have those four things together and integrated, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. Why, in this room, is every table inherently wired for Cat5 physical connections? Why isn't this just total Wi-Fi? Because when they built this and designed it, Cat5 stuff was the norm, and that's what you did. I'll give you another example. I built a big space once, big, 3,600 square feet, work-live environment, and this was in 2001, 2002, and when I built it, I wired every room for everything. I had Cat5, I had fiber. I mean, it's amazing. Probably spent $8,000, $9,000. By the time I moved in 2000, late 2002, the technology had already gone. We went to Wi-Fi. I never plugged anything in that place because the technology went that fast. So the how of it is to think into the future. Don't get run over by it. So here's a checklist. And you're going to get copies of this, you can get copies of this. And the idea here is when you're thinking about designing a workplace, you need a checklist to go through and say, okay, we got this covered. Did we thought about this? Did we miss that? So really a checklist. So the key questions, different kinds of workspaces, questions that relate to those, and then what does it do, why should you care? And we're going to have time for questions, so I'd love to come back to this and talk about specific examples. But, a little hint, where's my yoga person? You start at the bottom and move up. These are energy centers that correspond to energy centers in the body. And I submit you have energy centers expressed in the workplace. And if these things aren't connected, you've got a major issue. So I've noticed them here and there in some of the material, a mention of meditative spaces or private spaces you could go to. And why is that important? These are places that encourage, in today's lingo, mindfulness. which I would suggest to you is sort of yesterday's word. The word of the future is wholeness, and those are two different concepts. But the point is, you need places that encourage that kind of human activity in the workplace. And if you don't have it, it's not complete. Back to the design principle. And if it's not complete, no engagement. I mean, it just kind of really follows. So these are 7. These are the ones I use. These are the ones I start with. And whoever designed this place is not going to like me by 5 o'clock tonight. Take this list, and as we walk through, go, oh, okay, conference rooms. Is this hierarchical or communal? What about this place? This is the conference room. It's set out on a hierarchical grid. It's not communal. You've got avenues and streets. Avenues and streets. You've got a sub-area, a neighborhood, and another neighborhood. You've got a major superhighway between the neighborhoods. So that's how Charlie looks at the place. So, yeah, and this is a great design. I mean, it's flexible, that's good, you can move it around. But the idea is, what would a truly commutable conference room look like? How would you do that? And there's several ways to do it. But what I want you to do, though, is I want you to use this as sort of a roadmap, a checklist about how to think through the entire process of designing the workplace, and be conscious if you leave something out, it's going to come back. And it's going to come back and turn itself into something less than as good as it could be. I would like to use the word dysfunctional, but then people accuse me of politics.
Hey, Charlie, you know, like, you can say this is hierarchical, but I was at one of a company that was a big financial services organization, and I gave a presentation to, among other people, the
Right.
CEO, and there were about 140 employees there, and I had no idea what the conference space looked like. This was in California. And I went up to give the talk, and it had enormous, I mean, screens the size of that wall,
Yeah.
television screens. And for the connected in New York office, this was in the West Coast. And it had, when I walked out, the stage was small, but there was a huge circular table that looked like the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
And then on either side of that, there were 100 seats. They went in a tiered fashion,
Right.
like an auditorium. And I'm like, who sits there? And they're like, that's where the senior executives sit.
Right.
And these tables, literally like the United Nations, they were not movable, they were beautiful wood and stuff. But they sat there and each one had a microphone, right? So that everybody could listen to the conversation, right?
Yep.
But, and what, you couldn't look right at your audience was here and here, right? And so, it was, I mean, it's one of the most beautiful facilities you could imagine.
But it was the same thing, it was hierarchical.
No, I'm saying it was, compared to this, it was hierarchical, like in the extreme. You know what I mean? It was like you literally, there was no configuration that could occur. The people who were going to sit in the middle and be listened to with the CEO, you know, blah, blah, blah. It was like, but this to me is incredibly communal and non-hierarchical.
It's not bad. I know what you're talking about. I mean, all of us, when we were in university,
Yeah.
went to that course like Chemistry 101 is the one I remember, where it was like the big pit, and you look down.
Yeah. And BU and BC both built beautiful schools of management with exactly that configuration for every
Right,
single
right.
classroom. Like, all the knowledge comes from right here, right?
It's three-dimensional hierarchical,
Right.
whereas what I'm suggesting is this is two-dimensional.
All right.
And I'm going to show you some
I'm just
examples.
defending EY because they give us that nice lunch. Just kidding.
Check me out in 7 years, okay? Check me out in 7 years. No, we're, like I say, we're in this transition. And I think the gentleman who started out this morning was pretty specific about 9 years or however many years ago it was. This was totally different. So what I'm saying, fine, we're moving. But the idea is for you to look for this, and what you're suggesting is, oh my God, you know, it's like this, and there's a pit, and the font of all knowledge is the one, usually a professor with a microphone or something. So, does that make sense as a checklist? I mean, what do you think? Say again?
Questions now or later?
No, go ahead, questions. You're gonna check me for time, because I'll talk forever. Go ahead.
Well, I love this, and I love the cleanness of it, and a lot of my work involves mindfulness, so. And at the same time, I'm observing another kind of hierarchical aspect to it, which is the hierarchy of work over, and I think you would argue this with me, but just hear me out.
Okay.
The hierarchy of sort of work over the personal,
Mhm.
and by that I mean, for example, where's the connection to the natural environment? Are we designing into these spaces green? It seems like it's industrial to the extreme. Are we giving people places to go and deal with an elder care crisis, or cry because they're bereaved, or how do those pieces work? It's almost too clean for me that it seems to somehow undermine the intention of equalizing power.
Well, I would suggest that you could have a workspace that would expand out. Now, let me try to give you an example. What if you had workspaces that were designed to these principles, physically located within living communities, so that person could walk down the hall to a daycare center, or walk across the courtyard to an elder care facility or a healthcare facility or something. So if you take the same things and just blow them out, and there are a couple of communities being built today in the U.S. that are taking these principles, and not just the workspace, they're doing it for the life space, which includes all of this. So yeah, I'm a little bit constrained talking about workspace, but I certainly get what you're talking about. To me, this whole idea of wholeness blows it all out.
So that becomes then the work part of the wholeness, and then the rest of it is still right there.
Why should we separate workspace from living space? Why should it just be, well, I have to say it's not just space, but place. So you get workplace, living, place, key term. Place, place, place. But I would suggest to you that these same things apply. Okay, very quickly. If you take these and apply them to where you live, we call it feng shui. Yes, ma'am.
I realize that this is, my name's Maya, I realize this is specific to workplace design. I wonder if you then layer back in workplace culture on top of it, and how much of the old stuff moves back in. And I asked actually, I work at State Street, and we actually, our flex program was a part of the redesign for new building. So it's actually got a lot of these components in it. When you walk through there, you notice that some of the sort of old school way of cultural behavior sort of merge into the new space, and so spaces that maybe were open became sort of other spaces. So how much do you actually recommend from a change perspective?
Well, the culture of the workplace is, these principles become a reflection of that culture. And if you've got a culture that's old story, it's going to get reflected. This is new story culture. Hold on for a second. I'm going to show you a couple of, and tell you a story about how that happened. That's a good point. So there you go. This is yours to take away, play with. Be happy to talk later, but I'm conscious of time also. So here's this. It really, really, really works this place. Wait. This is a work place, not space, place, that was built using these design principles. So you've got some privacy, you've got stuff that's movable, you've got some moving into communal areas. These things provide acoustical privacy. And Stan Health is the name of the company in Southern California. And we did it from ground. This is a communal conference room. It's almost impossible to show your status in that conference room. Yeah.
I wanted to say one thing. I'm just curious if you see this as a practice. So we have basically a space that's redesigned from our Swiss company, very clean. What we're finding is that it's sort of, it prevents people in some way from being too expressive because they're so concerned about the clean lines that They're not allowed to put anything that's distracting on the desk. They can't, so people feel like they don't feel comfortable. So they feel like they're being robbed of their individuality because everything has to just look there.
There's some other pictures, yes. I worked in a place once, we had what we call the plant police.
Yeah, we have one.
There was only 2 kinds of plants allowed, and if you brought in another plant, they would come in at night and take it away. I had a client once that worked in, and they had a rule, and it's not picture, you could only have 6 objects on your desk. And if you put 7, they'd come in and take one away. They're totally destroying it. Now, in a more modern place, more designed on these principles, you give people a place to say, that's your expressive area. You do whatever you want to with it. And I'm going to show you an example of how that can be. Now, it takes leadership with a culture that says that's okay to express your individuality, your uniqueness, and that's fine, and do it. And sometimes it gets to be a contest. This is our place, so isn't it cool, well, I've got 2 palm trees, well, I got 3 and a flamingo, and it gets to be playful. But again, I think it comes from the leadership and the culture saying that's okay. It's like trying to tell your kid they can't have a messy bedroom. Not gonna work. But see, you're conscious of that now. Okay, so this got designed that way. And this started when we got the CEO to start sitting out here at least 3 hours a day with his laptop. And then the CFO, and then the CTO. And then pretty soon their little offices disappeared. And they were out there all the time. It took us 36 months to go through the change process, by the way. This doesn't happen like that. So, quick glimpse of the future. You mentioned elder care. That's what this place is. This is a converted warehouse for elders who require some degree of assistance in living, and it's co-located with office space designed the same place in the next building over. This is all inside. I just think this, and what it is, front porches in neighborhoods for a sense of community, walkways between them, and the lighting at the top is controlled, so at night, bright lights go down and starlights come out, and during the daytime. Yeah?
Is this in Ohio?
Yes, it is. You got it. Exactly. Have you been there? What did you think?
I was in a different section,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've been there for years.
But, I mean, we've got people thinking about it. I mean, I just thought, and it's inside. I went, whoa. I mean, they repurposed an entire warehouse to do this. And this is living. I just think